In this video, I'm going to be revisiting or realigning forward folds. Forward folds are in almost every yoga practice, particularly in the sun salutations. And while they seem pretty benign, they can actually be a bit difficult for some lower backs. So traditionally, the way the forward fold is done is straight legs, arms out to the side, and this idea of swan diving or hinging at the waist to come forward towards the tops of the thighs. Well, there's a couple of things that are happening as we're doing this. One is the hamstrings are acting like a pulley and pulling or exerting force on the pelvis, pulling it down toward our back. And then as the weight of the spine begins to tip forward, this is putting weight on the other side of the pelvis, the front side, and beginning to bring that pelvis toward the front of the mat. So we've got a shearing force in two directions on the pelvis, and particularly with people with SI joint issues, that is the joint where the two pelvis halves meet the spine, this can be difficult or painful or just not advised. The other issue with it is if we're tight on the back body at all, it could be the hamstrings or the back, as we come forward with straight legs and begin to press the spine toward the top of the legs, we tend to be rounding the spine. This is causing compression along the front of the spine, vertebrae compressing into vertebrae, and it could cause some bulging or herniation on the back discs, particularly if there are pre-existing back issues. And then we add the weight of the arms out, and that creates even more force or weight of the spine moving toward the front of the mat. So how are some ways that we can reconfigure a forward fold so that it works for all bodies and all spines? Well, one of the things we can do is we can bend the knees slightly, and this releases the hamstrings. So we're not getting that pulley force on the bottom part of the pelvis. Also, if we just slightly send the hips back, so we're getting this slight tip forward at the top of the pelvis, this just helps protect and keep the low back in more of a neutral position. Just make sure we're not tipping it so forward. They're actually creating a compression in the low back. So we're looking to keep a neutral low back and spine. Your forward fold, particularly if there are back issues, might have hands up at the tops of the thighs, working on pressing down through the feet, drawing up through the spine, keeping it right here. Or maybe you can begin to straighten, bringing that spine long toward the tops of the thighs. Hands might be able to slide down. And then once you're down, maybe those legs begin to straighten. If at some point, though, this is causing the spine to round, keep the knees where you need to look for this length in the spine, wherever that might be in your practice. And I also tend to keep the hands more at heart center. So instead of taking this swan dive over, I actually slide my hands down, taking some additional weight off of that back body. So these are some ideas on how you can refigure your forward folds.